Hey YouTube friends, welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to talk about my strategy, Basecamp Thousand Trails. I'm going to tell you what Thousand Trails is, why I think it's a great fit for van life, the pros and the cons of joining Thousand Trails, give you just a brief overview of it, and tell you why I think it's a great fit for you if you're new to van life and about to travel this great country of ours. Let's get into it. Before we get in the meat of the video, as always, if you end up liking this content during the course of the video, please hit the like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and drop us a line in the comments. Van life, open road, the dream of the open road, going wherever I want, whenever I want, right? No, that's not van life at all. Because here's what they don't tell you about van life. National parks, those things sell out a year in advance. State parks, some of them, good ones, sell out a year in advance, 6 months in advance. Whenever they open the window for you to book a campground, they sell out. Municipalities and cities where you used to be able to camp, no, they don't want us there. So they're passing big ordinances that stop us from coming there and make the fines big. I'm talking thousands of dollars big if you're caught camping in your car, and or jail time. Seriously, for sleeping in your car, you can go to jail. That's ridiculous, but I digress. I'm not here to talk about politics or what I think on subjects like that. I'm here to talk to you about Thousand Trails. So when I started van life, I had a dream, and that dream involved me caking on the open road. And there is some of that. I spend a good amount of time boondocking in national forests, on BLM land, going to state parks, going to national parks, etc. But that's not how I spend all my time for a whole host of reasons that I'll get into. And I found a solution. Enter Thousand Trails, my base camp. What is Thousand Trails? Thousand Trails is a membership camping program. Once you're a member, you're entitled to camp in Thousand Trails campgrounds basically year-round. Thousand Trails has 82 campgrounds throughout the country in the continental United States in their main collection. And then they have what's called Trails Collection, which you can add for about $450 a year, that has 120 additional parks. In addition, you can get access to what's another camping program called Resort Parks International for a nominal fee. Overall, my Thousand Trails membership cost me $4,000 for 2 years. So for $2,000 a year, think about this before you judge the cost, I could stay at a Thousand Trails park literally 365 days a year. Now, obviously, that is not what I want to do. I have no desire to do that. That's not why I bought a Winnebago Rebel. But it does serve as part of my strategy. So let's talk about some of the things that Thousand Trails offers. Obviously, lots of locations. I am showing you a map. I want you to notice something immediately. The locations are what's called the Thousand Trails Smile. And the Thousand Trails Smile is grouped around the coast, right? That leaves a lot of the center of the country without coverage. Enter Resort Parks International. RPI is a separate membership program that's a couple $100s a year, if that, with your Thousand Trails membership, or if you have a newer subscription model, it is included. So RPI covers, I'm showing you a map with RPI turned on, the center of the country. You will pay to stay in those parks. It can be as cheap as $5, it can be more expensive than that, but it is a heavily discounted program. So Thousand Trails Park is a very affordable solution that allows you to stay as many nights theoretically as you want. When you're in Thousand Trails Parks, you have access to amenities, laundry machines, washers, dryers, pool, mini golf, camp store, activities, etc. So they can be very social. So Thousand Trails gives you those resort type park amenities, all for the bargain price of $4,000 for me, what I pay for a year. Now, let's talk about membership options real quick. I'm gonna do a whole video on membership options, so I don't wanna bore you with this. Membership options basically break into two categories. A new membership, which is basically a subscription model. It's good for 2 to 4 years, and there's 3 different levels, or a used membership. Now, there are so many different used memberships that I couldn't cover them in a 45-minute video, so I'm not even gonna try. I'm gonna do a whole separate video on used and new subscriptions. I urge you to watch that. But suffice it to say, there are multiple ways to purchase a membership, and which one is right for you depends on your use case and how long you're gonna use it. But how do I use Thousand Trails, and why do I think it is a great addition to your van life repertoire of things you have in your arrows in your quiver, so to say? So the first thing I use it for is to deal with logistics. When you buy a van, they tell you have a gray tank, they tell you how to empty it, they don't ever tell you where you're gonna empty it. They don't tell you where you're gonna get your water, they just show you how to fill your water. So let me ask you a question. You can get free water at a lot of gas stations. and you go in and you ask the gas station attendant, hey, the water off of pump number 5, is it potable? When he looks at you and goes, huh? Sure. Do you believe that? Because guess what? I don't. So one of the things I found is you can spend an inordinate amount of time as a van lifer worried about basic logistics. Where am I gonna dump my toilet? Where am I gonna dump my gray water? How am I gonna get water? Those kinds of things. So I use Thousand Trails Parks as my solution to that. I know that I'm going to be in a campground every 5 days, and I'm gonna have a place to dump my tank. I'm gonna have a place to fill my fresh water. I use it for other logistics as well. I'm gonna do my laundry when I get to the park and or when I leave, right? Probably right before I leave. I'm gonna receive packages there. Now, word of caution, not every Thousand Trails park will allow you to receive packages, and some do charge a nominal fee for receiving packages. But before I'm gonna be in the park, I may start ordering stuff on Amazon 3-4 days before I'm gonna get there, so that when I get there, I have it. But it at least gives me a chance. So I would urge you to call the park ahead of time and see if they'll accept packages. I also use Thousand Trails for other boondocking preparations. So I noticed, for example, that one of my key water usage issues was cooking, and not necessarily cooking, it was cleaning dishes after I made meals. So I actually leave the Thousand Trails parks generally to go boondocking for 5 days at a time, and I leave with all my food cooked, prepped, and ready to go. That way, I use a lot less water when I'm boondocking, and I have at least 5 days of water, and I'm probably quite a bit more than that in my tank ready to go, and I'm not desperately trying to conserve water. And one of my favorite uses of Thousand Trails is when I just need a break. Boondocking, moving around, going campsite to campsite is awesome, but sometimes you just need a break. And sometimes I need to do normal stuff like you and just watch YouTube videos and watch Netflix and hang out. And so I want to do that in a Thousand Trails park where I'm not worried about whether the popo is going to knock on my door and tell me to move, or the security guard at Planet Fitness is going to come tell me to move, or whatever. Or I'm in a national park where the tree cover is so dense that I can't get Starlink. Thousand Trails parks serve all those needs for me, so sometimes I'll just pull in for a day or two, plug into shore power, turn on that AC on high, curl up in bed with Odie and watch some movies. It does that for me. It also gives me those times when I want the resort amenities, when I want a pool. Additionally, it offers me the opportunity to be social. As van lifers, most of us are not social by nature. We want to be left alone. I can hear kids talking in the background right now. It's annoying the hell out of me. We want to be, and I'm in a national park or national forest campground. But the point being, as van lifers, most of the time, we actually want to be left alone. And Thousand Trails gives me the opportunity when I do feel social, wanting to be social, I can be. Let me give you an example. The other day I was feeling a little lonely, so I just went to the pool. I wanted to hang out by the pool. I ended up talking to this lovely couple from Massachusetts. He was a former mechanic. We had a great conversation. It was a lot of fun. I enjoyed the conversation quite a bit. And that fulfilled my social need, right? Because living in a van does get lonely, especially when you're in the middle of a national forest by yourself, or you're on BLM by yourself. All of those things have a tendency to get lonely, and Thousand Trails allows me to occasionally do social stuff. And my favorite part of Thousand Trails and my best use case for is when I need a flexible solution. What do I mean by that? National parks, etc., often have cancellation penalties. Some state parks have huge cancellation penalties. New York, for example, state parks, you basically forfeit all your money 30 days out. So sometimes, for example, you may need the flexibility of being able to leave and not forfeit any money. Let me give you an example. Right now, I'm waiting for parts for Jack Caravan. We have an electrical system issue. Winnebago has accepted responsibility for the labor part. We need to get the actual part from the manufacturer of that part. We're waiting on them to ship it. But anyway, I don't know whether I'm going to be where I am for 3 days or 3 weeks. Enter Thousand Trails. I can book it for 3 weeks and not worry about that to be the maximum I can book it under terms of my membership, but I don't have to worry about what happens if I leave early. I'm not paying a bunch of cancellation penalties, because guess what? There's no penalties to pay. So Thousand Trails gives me that flexibility. Another example, the other day I was in camping, boondocking in a state forest, and the weather was about to turn bad. I was watching it come. I knew it was gonna get there in a day or two, and I was like, you know what? We're out of here. So I looked, I found a Thousand Trails park a couple of hours away. I drove there, I hung out there for 2 days and waited for the bad weather to pass. So having that flexibility is a huge, huge stress relief, and I cannot tell you how nice that is. So those are my primary uses for Thousand Trails. Now, what are the downsides? The downsides are obviously the location of the parks. Let me show you that map again. So, for example, I'm going to be doing some mountain biking in Arizona, probably about a month's worth. If I take out the age-restricted parks in Arizona, there's only one that I can actually technically stay in. Now, I may try and do something differently. I may just try and go to those age-restricted parks. I haven't quite figured it out yet. But the location of the parks is a slightly annoying factor, particularly if you're doing what I'm doing and you're pursuing mountain biking. That having said, there's some great locations as well. So I don't want to bash all the locations. I'm just simply saying the lack and dearth of coverage in the middle of the country can be slightly annoying. Number two, a lot of the parks are 55 plus. I'm not 55, I'm 47. So you can see the obvious problem. Number three, and I mean this, and I say this with love, a lot of the parks have seen better days. Yeah, they're dated. I'm gonna show you some videos. My favorite was this rec room. It was lovely. I think the 70s called and they want some of their paint back. I'm surprised the paint's still there. But point being, these campgrounds were built in the 70s, 80s, 90s, and they're showing their age, they're showing their wear, they're showing their tear. And that comes not only with the actual paint and the upkeep, but also with the electrical systems, etc. They were not designed for a day where people would show up with a 50 amp hookup, a 45-foot rig, and 3 air conditioning systems. They were designed for a 30 amp hookup with a standard RV. Back then, a 30-foot RV was a huge RV. That is not true anymore, and some of the sites have difficulty accommodating. Speaking of which, if you have an older rig, you may have a problem. If you have a rig that's non-RVIA certified, you may have a problem. So for example, you may not be allowed into a Thousand Trails park or as a member with your schoolie. If your rig is older than 10 years old, you may have a problem. All of these things are potential issues if you're doing van life at Thousand Trails. So why do I think you should join Thousand Trails, and why do I think it's a good fit for van life? So first of all, I think it's a bargain for what you get. $4,000 for 2 years, $2,000 a year to get unlimited number of days is excellent price. Two, it takes a tremendous amount of stress off me. Knowing I have a place to go, why do I call it my Basecamp Thousand Trails strategy? Because I know that I have over, 200 parks across the country that I call my base camp. So almost wherever I am, within a few hours, I can return to base at any time. That comfort when you're on the road, the value of that comfort cannot be stated enough. Third, it is a great logistical solution, right? As I mentioned earlier, if you are boondocking like I am, if you're spending 5 days at a time in national forests, in state forests, etc., like I am, you still have to deal with logistics. You still have to do laundry. You still have to deal with tanks. You still have to dump your toilet somewhere. You still have to dump your gray tank. You still have to get fresh water. You got to do all of those things. You got to get packages. This is the modern world we live in. So you're going to have to do all of those things at some point. Thousand Trails gives you the option to do it. It gives you the option in a low-cost model, The other reason I really like Thousand Trails is I actually do like some of the parks. For example, I really have taken a shine to Thousand Trails Hershey. It is a high-use park. A lot of people like it, but there's something about the pool and the elevation and the hills and the lake and all that. I just actually like being there. And so it has been wonderful to be able to pull in there and take a break and enjoy just some time, downtime at a resort while still staying in my van, while still feeling like I'm living the van life. So all of those reasons are great reasons to join Thousand Trails. I think that the people it's probably not for are people who have older rigs, who have maybe schoolies or self-converted rigs, or who really just enjoy the challenge of worrying about where they're going to get their water and worrying about where they're going to dump their tanks, or who really do not want to be around other people. Like, I get it. I am an introvert, and you will not get that at Thousand Trails at all. Your neighbors will talk to you. People will wander up and just start talking to you. And it can be wonderful, and it can also be annoying. So I get that, because I am a true introvert, even though I'm very extroverted, as by the fact that I have YouTube videos. But inside, I'm an introvert. And I think it excels at the flexible solution, right? When I needed a last minute place and I needed repairs on my RV, my first question is, where's there a Winnebago dealer close to a Thousand Trails park close to me? I used chatbot GPT to start narrowing that down. That's how I figured it out, and that's where I went. So, as always, if you've enjoyed this content, please hit that like and subscribe button, turn on notifications, and feel free to drop us a line in the comments. I'm here to answer any questions and help you on your journey. Thanks for watching. Take care.